Storm the castle. UConn is going to the Elite Eight. You're locked on UConn.
You are Locked On UConn, your daily podcast on the UConn Huskies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On UConn your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. This episode is brought to you by Nissan. Are you the kind of driver that likes to push things a little further? Ever wonder what adventure could be around the next corner? Take the Nissan Rogue, Nissan Pathfinder, or Nissan Armada and find your next big adventure. Check them all out today at nissanusa.com. The UConn Huskies, led by Stephon Castle's double-double, 16 points, 11 rebounds. Cam Spencer's 18 points and 5 rebounds. Tristen Newton, 17 points, 7 rebounds, 6 offensive rebounds. And Hassan Diarra's 10 points, 4 assists, and 4 rebounds are doing something a defending champion hasn't done since 2001. That's get past the Sweet 16 and get to the Elite Eight. Every other top seed in the Sweet 16 went down last night. Carolina losing to Bama, Arizona losing to Clemson, RIP Pac-12, Iowa State losing to Illinois. But the Huskies, despite a mediocre performance from their big man Donovan Clingan, I probably for the first time in a long time I got nervous last night while watching this Husky squad. And I realized as they started to pull me back from that uneasy feeling, it wasn't because of fear of we'd lose the game, because I definitely didn't think we were going to lose to San Diego State. It was honest fear of not having another game to look forward to. This team has been such a pleasure to watch grow, evolve, and just kind of show what type of team this is. This run, it's not normal, guys. And I quite literally catch myself just trying to stay in this moment, because there will be an end to this season. No matter what, just a matter of when and if we're cutting down nets. Last night was kind of incredible. They were able to suffocate San Diego State, and before you know it, we're here celebrating. The Huskies won 82-52, and at one point with 3:39 to go in the first half. Tell me about your feelings if you were watching this game. Maybe think about this as I talk about it. It was 33-29. And let's do some quick math here. Winning the game 82-52. That's an extended run of 49. Yes, you heard me right. 49-23. A beatdown for the remaining 23 minutes and 30 seconds. We prepared you guys for what this game could have been going into this week. I thought it was going to be a muck it up game. And in all intents and purposes, it was for a while. But no matter how good and tough one's defense is, if you can't score with this UConn team, it's going to be a long night. Let's take a look at this 9-game tournament winning streak Hurley, that UConn has. And he said in this press conference that we suck in close games, so we got to go with the alternative. And he laughed after that, but that's the running joke. If you're not a UConn fan and you're listening to this casually, the knock on Hurley is he can't win close games. So as the kids say, he said, bet. All right, bet. I'll assemble a team where we don't need to win any close games because we're just going to blow everybody out. So let's take a deep dive into this 9-game tournament winning streak going back to last year. The first round, Iona won by 24. Second round, St. Mary's by 15. Sweet 16 last year, they won by 23 over Arkansas. Elite 8 against Gonzaga, 28 points. That was, I laugh because coming off of the Arkansas win, it was just they were just so hot and they played great. But then to just destroy them in the than to destroy Gonzaga. And I knew Gonzaga was a little inflated with their 3 seed, but, Drew Timmy's a good player and classic college player. Anyway, I digress. Get to the Final Four. You figure, competition is going to ramp up. Miami beat a really tough Texas team last year, and we won by 13. And then, of course, the title game against San Diego State, much like yesterday's game, got as close as 5, as I was reminded by San Diego State fans in my YouTube comments. But that game went up to 17 and got the dub. It wasn't very competitive, that game. It was tough. Like I said, they brought it down, made it somewhat competitive. Again, never felt like we're going to lose that game. Then you come to this year. First round against Stetson, 39-point game. Second round, 17 points. And then Sweet 16, 30 points. Right now, the Elite Eight against Illinois, the spread is 7.5 at open. It's likely jumped. I would imagine it's going to get to 10, maybe 9.5. Maybe it stays there, because I think the original spread of the San Diego State game was 9.5, and it settled around 11 at game time. But I repeat again, this is not normal. This is a testament to Dan Hurley and his staff, Kamani Young, Luke Murray, Tom Moore, in embracing the type of players that make up the culture he wants at UConn. None of what UConn does is luck or by accident. I'm a Giants fan. I'm sorry to our Boston fans who watch, but the Giants won a Super Bowl, well, 2 Super Bowls over the Patriots. The first one, I think everyone, including rational Giants fans, would agree that even though their defense played great, one incredibly fortuitous play, the helmet catch, is what propelled Eli Manning and the Giants to win that Super Bowl. No one can take what UConn has done away from them based off of luck or a bad call or, it's tournament play. Anything can happen. So the fact that they're winning these games by this margin, they're flat out dominating teams and doing it with elite defense and elite offense. They're beyond reproach, is my point. Last night, they won the rebounding battle 50-29. I'll say that again, 50-29. Outscoring San Diego State 42-21 in the second half. San Diego State's defense is top 10 in the country and scored 42 points and a half. 40 and 42. 82 points total is insane against a top 10 defensive team. And Coach Hurley said this of how they were able to do it. In quotes, we were able to wear them down with our off-ball movement. And look, we have a variety of different players that can make plays and make shots. And we had them, kind of scrambling. There was a lull period in the first half, but we felt great about the shots we were getting. And when asked about his star transfer, Cam Spencer, in an interview with the great John Fanta, he said he called Cam a kindred spirit. And then he equated it with a few of the great duos of all time. And this is all Dan Hurley quotes, like Bonnie and Clyde, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, the Road Warriors, to use a wrestling reference, and even gave old school Samoans wrestling reference. Listen, Dan Hurley and his team are locked in as they're showing it game by game. We'll talk about the key to the Huskies' title hopes after this. This episode is brought to you by spring cleaning champions Manscaped. This season, make sure to groom your carpets and drapes with the leaders in below-the-waist grooming. Clear out that winter bush with Manscaped, the Lawnmower 5.0, and watch your confidence bloom like the springtime flowers. Embrace the season and join the 10 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped, including myself, with our special offer. Go to manscaped.com and use the code LOCKEDON for 20% off plus free shipping. Get 20% off and free shipping with code LOCKEDON at manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping with the code LOCKEDON at manscaped.com. Nothing like a little spring cleaning in your pants. Bracket already busted? I know mine is. Tired of the same old daily fantasy grind where you make a roster, cross your fingers, and hope for the best? Or losing on the last leg of your pick'em entry? Introducing Better Together, the first cooperative daily fantasy platform where teamwork triumphs talent and you can play with your friends, not against them. Pick more or less, in quotations, on real-time player stats, strategize with your partner to boost your odds, and climb the leaderboard together. So grab a friend and join the social daily fantasy sports movement. Download Better Together now from the App Store and sign up using promo code Locked On for a chance to win your share of over $1,000 in cash prizes. Remember the code Locked On, because winning alone is fun, but it's better together. All right. The Huskies won this game by 30, right? They were the tougher team. I don't think there would be a coach or expert of college basketball alive that would ever consider San Diego State soft. I mean, half their guys are in their late 20s. That's kind of the formula. They have guys who whether they bring people in as a transfer, like Reese Waters, a USC transfer, Jaden Ledee, he's 24. I mean, like his fourth team, something crazy like that. By the way, I digress. It's crazy when you watch these games, like when you start to hear, and I'm not hating on it. It's just college sports has become more professionalized, right? In particular with teams that have at state schools, right? It's a lot easier to get into, say, in Alabama than it is to get into a Duke. So you're not going to hear Duke transfer on his fourth team in 4 years, or Northwestern, Vanderbilt, stuff like that. So there is an advantage to being at a UConn, to being at an Alabama, to being at a Houston, or UCLA to get these type of players. But that wasn't the point of this segment, but I digress because it's fair to say that a lot of these players are going from school to school. And I really do feel like that's what gives Dan Hurley and UConn this cultural advantage, because they really know how to recruit the right players. When we did the episode about Dan Hurley to Kentucky, tongue in cheek, right? It wouldn't work because they're used to these, winning recruiting championships. We have the number one recruiting class in the country. This isn't college football, guys. There's not 70 players that come in and it's just kind of like layering talent after talent and physically imposing. Basketball is a skill game, and you definitely need talent. As you can see, we have talented players, but you need the right type of players, as we've talked about in this show before. Guys who have high IQ, who execute and process the game faster, not just guys who get it and go. That's not what this team is trying to build off of. And you can see based off of what happened last night. They were the tougher team. Shots weren't falling. Okay, they played tougher defense. There was no sulking. There was no looking at each other like, where were you on that play? Or, come on, Donovan, make your jump hooks. Like there was none of that. They saw who was struggling, which was last night was Klingon. Everyone has a bad game. It's all good. Because make no mistake, this is a team. When one guy struggles, another man steps up. And that man last night was Steph Castle. How good is this kid? I thought Stan Van Gundy was going to announce he's coming out of retirement to coach in the NBA, because he was gushing over Steph. Like, hey, take me and Steph, and we're going to go coach. We're going to get on the Pistons, and we're going to go win the championship. That's the way I felt about the way Stan Van Gundy was talking about Steph Castle last night. Steph is smooth. He's patient. He's a tough-ass kid. Then he's not a kid. I mean, Hurley said, that was a man's performance. He's a man and a big-time winning player and a soon-to-be lottery pick. I heard Dan Hurley say, that they have old souls in this team, an old-school toughness on kids. Nothing was more evident than late in the second half. Went up for a defensive rebound. Steph got up and grabbed a rebound high above the rim and was hammered by Jaden Ledee. All 6'9", 240 pounds. So just raked him across the face. And Steph went down and bounced his head on the Boston Garden floor. I was pissed because they didn't go look at that, because I think these reviews are ridiculous in these games, but they look at almost every other inadvertent elbow there is. Guys flopping, a guy getting poked in the face by accident. Up, they're in one. The most famous one during the season was TCU versus Kansas, where TCU's on a fast break and they stopped the game because Hunter Dickinson got an inadvertent elbow to the face. Kansas gets the ball, shoots free throws, gets the ball, wins the game. But, we're up 100, so no one cared. But, I just want a little bit of clarity as to why that wasn't even looked at. And honestly, if they looked at it and said, oh, he was going for the ball, it's no big deal. I'd much rather them do that, is to this excessive force to the head. What about him hitting his head on the back of the parquet floor at Boston Garden? Does that not count? So anyway, I digress. I had one of those moments. I was holding my son and I was just like, if I wasn't holding my son, I would have yelled and screamed, but I was just like, why aren't they looking at this? I think I tweeted it out too. Shout out to the 2 people that liked my tweet. I think Steph had one bad sequence last night, but listen, he's a freshman. To only have one bad sequence in, 20 plus minutes, I think he probably played 30 minutes. It's incredible. And don't be selfish with this kid and look at what he can't do. Or more importantly, what he's not being asked to do. Dan Hurley is not asking him to take 15, 16 shots a game and average 20 points. Take a step back and realize this kid is an NBA lottery pick, whether you like it or not. All you got to do is go back and listen to Stan Van Gundy, literally jumping out of his seat to praise this kid. And there's a lot of Stan Van Gundys in the NBA salivating over this kid. To me, he reminds me a lot of Shay Gilgeous-Alexander. Same height, 6'6". Shay was a little bit more slender, when he was coming out too, like Steph. But you can tell Steph is, got the NBA body, the broad shoulders. Wasn't, he's only going to get stronger. And Shay wasn't asked to do what he's doing now in the pros. But once he started to figure it out, he's leading Oklahoma City to the first seed in the West right now. It's my comp for Steph. And if I was a pro team, I want this kid in my program ASAP. But before he goes, and is one of the long storied history of Huskies in the pros, he's going to turn around tomorrow and shut down Shannon Jr. Because if you watched last night, the game after our game, if you cut the head off that dragon, this Illinois team has zero chance and zero interest in guarding for a full 20 to 25 seconds. And if they're not keeping up with UConn, if they see their leaders struggling to get points, that it's not as easy because our guards are 6'6", 6'5", and 6'4", and then we'll throw a little scrappy 6'2" Diarra on you just to put that on-ball pressure on you. The key to beating Illinois is getting that on-ball pressure, and securing the Final Four is stopping Terrence Shannon. And I really feel like UConn has the formula to do it. By the way, are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? Have to turn down the volume with all that shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports Today, a free 24/7 sports streaming and channel program for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube and for free and on the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. This week's March Madness Bracket Highlight is brought to you by our friends at Nissan. Each week, we're picking one team that stands out, a team that's pushed it further than the rest. just like any of the all-new 2024 Nissan SUVs. These guys were able to take it to the next level. The NC State Wolfpack are obviously this week's Nissan Rogue. The team absolutely surprised us all with a powerful performance in their first 2 games in the tournament. Wins over Texas Tech and Oakland have set them up to play Marquette in the Sweet 16. They say win life and go Rogue, and that's exactly what the Wolfpack have done here. Take the Nissan Rogue, Nissan Pathfinder, or Nissan Armada and go find your next big adventure. Shop NissanUSA.com. All right, guys. It's crazy to think I just did that Nissan promo that NC State, an 11 seed, finished 10th in the ACC, could end up having a more successful season than Carolina, who lost last night, and potentially Duke. And that it could be Clemson and NC State in the Elite Eight and not Duke and Carolina. College basketball, man. Gotta love it. So Illinois is up next, right? Not worried, and I'll tell you why. Great offensive team, number 2 overall. But guess who's number 1? UConn. They can hang with us, right? But for how long? Let's look at their defense. Buckle up. These are I'm gonna list teams who play better defense than Illinois. And then I'll give you 2 guesses where UConn is on defense. Okay. Northwestern. About 40 spots higher than Illinois on defense, according to Ken Palm. These are all Ken Palm numbers, by the way. Georgia, who just played in the NIT. Seattle. Yes, Seattle is a college. North Texas. Not the region, the school. UTEP, to stay in Texas. University of Texas, El Paso. UC Irvine, powerhouse out of the couldn't even tell you the conference. St. John's, yes, a team that gave up 95 points to us in the Big East tournament. Wake Forest, my buddy Steve Forbes, great offensive team. Defense was not great this year. BYU, lost in the first round. Ohio State, beat Purdue, though. That was a nice win. Vermont, lost in the first round to Duke. Bradley, who just lost in the NIT to another friend of mine, Wes Miller, in Cincinnati. Texas Tech, first round exit in the NCAA tournament. Arizona State, Utah Valley, Dayton, first round exit. Texas A&M, played pretty well against Houston, still lost. Baylor, lost to NC State. Oregon, lost to Creighton. Louisiana Tech, powerhouse out of the Conference USA. James Madison got a win in the tournament. South Carolina did not. Drake, Florida State. The aforementioned NC State, not a great defensive team, on a nice little run. I think that run ends against Marquette. Butler, SMU, USC, and we all know my favorite out of my former college conference, the NEC, Merrimack. Yes, Merrimack plays better defense than Illinois. Penn State. Yes, the 16-17 Penn State Nittany Lions out of the Big Ten, who, by the way, beat Illinois, and Illinois gave up 90 points to this team. Jeff Goodman's favorite, Indiana. Utah State, who just got beat by 100 by Purdue. And, of course, out of the MAC, Marist. Those are a list of teams that play better defense that are on – I didn't even list them all, because when you're the 84th ranked defense, we could do a whole podcast of listing which teams are better on defense than Illinois. And honestly, I hate to do this, but that's Brad Brownell, not Brad Brownell. I always confuse the Clemson coach and the Illinois coach because their names are similar. I'm going to get his name right so I don't mess it up. Where's that guy? Illinois basketball coach. Sorry. Brad Underwood. Sorry, Brad Brownell. Your team's in the Elite Eight. Brad Underwood's team is going to your team is going to end. Your run is going to end in the Elite Eight. Listen, I think he's an average coach. When you're only good on one side of the ball and you're not even being 84th in defense out of 365 teams in the NCAA tournament is terrible, in my opinion, especially when you're at a big conference like this. With the guys that you have on your team, with the NBA talent that you have on offense, if you can't get these guys to buy in on defense, you're an average coach. So this will be a collective effort, and I'm already saying we're going to win this game tomorrow by double digits again. This is a team that's lost to Penn State, as we just mentioned, give up 90 to them. They also lost to Michigan State, who a lot of people thought was a fraudulent NCAA tournament team, including myself. To Northwestern, who we just gave a nice spanking to. I just don't see Illinois wanting to. They're going to want to. That's not the right word. They're going to want to play defense, but it's kind of like being in a fight. Everyone's tough until you get hit. Everyone's tough until you get that first punch to the jaw, and you're like, I don't want to do this anymore. And that's what UConn does. They just keep jabbing you. They're like the great. Remember when Lennox Lewis fought Mike Tyson, and that was the big draw. I'm dating myself, and Tyson was past his prime, and Lennox Lewis just kept him at length. Boom, just kept jabbing his face until it was time to send him on his way. And that's what this UConn team does. They're like a great fighter that just jabs you, and then when you make a mistake, kill shot. Not concerned. So don't worry about tomorrow. Enjoy today. I want to remind you guys that Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV. In the free Fire TV channels app, Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows. Find Locked On Sports Today now and available on Fire TV app. This has been another episode of Locked On UConn. I'm your host, Mark Zanetto, wishing you all peace, love, and as always, go Huskies.